I am Graham, a trucker who reads a lot of books. My goal is to be a full-time author and illustrator. You're helping me get there by watching this video, so thanks. Now on to the video. Recently, I watched Down Periscope on Amazon Prime. This is a comedy from the mid-90s when Kelsey Grammer was really at the height of his Frasier popularity, and he plays this captain of a submarine. He's a naval officer, and he's put through some war games as a test of his mettle for promotion. But he's given a crappy submarine and a ragtag crew of misfits. It's a very well-trod premise, but it doesn't feel tired because it's more a matter of like taking the talents of the cast and putting them on display. And it's got some dramatic weight and stuff here and there are arcs for the characters, but it is first and foremost a comedy. Some of the channels that I follow that talk about comedy, like, they really lament the fact that Hollywood doesn't make them these days, like especially not the way that they used to. It seemed like comedy was a reliable genre all unto itself. They'll still make R-rated comedies, I guess, but that's just more a matter of like putting raunch on display. They don't make just average run-of-the-mill comedies the way that they used to. I think that's twofold. I think one reason is just because everybody's so sensitive about what they're allowed to laugh at and what they are commanded to laugh at, that it's probably more trouble than it's worth in a lot of ways. But I think the other side of it is that it takes a special writing talent to write comedy. It's hard to get a laugh out of somebody in a genuine and organic way. You can write the script in such a way that as long as you know who's going to be playing it, you can kind of lean to their strengths. And, Kelsey Grammer's got kind of a dry sense of humor, but with like a wink and a nudge that a wink and a nod rather, that he's in on the joke. And as long as you play to that, then you can make it work. And he's not telling knock-knock jokes or anything. Like he played the role as seriously as it deserved. But even without the laugh elements, you've got to be able to establish stakes and establish obstacles and then establish the payoff and everything and show all this moving at a very, very good clip. The strength of a good comedy movie is the pacing. It's got to move quickly because you can't bore the audience if you want to get them laughing. You don't want to surprise them with a laugh like, oh, haha, I'm bored, and then here's a laugh. Like, in that situation, a laugh will just remind them of how bored they are. You've got to have the story progress well, and you've got to tell the jokes along the way. This movie, it opens up with a room full of naval officers, and they're reviewing Kelsey Grammer's character. His name is Tom Dodge. Reviewing him for promotion, and there's one admiral in the room who's very against giving this man his own submarine. You can tell he just hates this guy, and he's got a couple of reasons. But he's opposing the promotion, whereas the other admiral, played by Rip Torn, is in favor of it. And so they settle on, like, well, let's give him a war game to play, and he's got to get a submarine into this certain harbor over here, and if he does it, then we'll give him the promotion, and we'll give him a nuclear submarine. And yeah, like, the guy is a little bit rough around the edges. He's done some things that are questionable for the character of an officer. I won't get into it here. They make a few jokes about it near the beginning of the movie, and then at the end, it is what it is. And then from there, he's got the gravity of like, oh, I've got to use this old crappy diesel submarine, and I've got to compete against the best nuclear subs that the Navy has to offer, and I've got parameters that I've got to follow, and I've got a lackluster crew. They're either idiots or they're willfully negligent. There's one guy who's openly insubordinate. He's trying to sabotage his own career. So there's a variety of obstacles, and those give plenty of comedic opportunities for the characters to play off of each other, but it also gives dramatic opportunities for the captain to show his mettle. He's not just aiming for this promotion and hoping that he gets it because he's been in the Navy for a long time. He's got to show that he's capable of leading a resistant crew, and doing so with wit and skill, but also with a bit of humor. There are a few wrenches thrown into the mix. There's a female sailor who's put on there, and I don't know what the regs were in the Navy 30 years ago, if this was accurate or whatever, but apparently like they don't put women on submarines, or at least they didn't back then. But she's part of an experimental program, which just adds another layer of complication, and both as far as like the rapport of the crew, as well as her skills as the dive officer. She's only ever done a dives in the simulation and stuff, and at one point like she loses her cool or her composure, her confidence, because she makes a mistake, and it's the captain's job to remind her, like, you do have a skill set, and the mistake that you made is one that any one of us could have made. You had to have no way of knowing that what happened was going to happen, and it's his job to put the crew together and keep them together and get the best out of them. So it balances all that stuff well. It's a good, funny watch. Great performances. The supporting cast has Rob Schneider in it. Bruce Dern plays the jerk admiral. Lauren Hawley plays the female dive officer. There are a couple of other familiar faces, especially from the 90s. I don't know this actor's name, but if you saw Armageddon in 98, he was the big fat guy who he was driving the armadillo when it exploded and got sent out into space from the asteroid. That guy was the chef on the submarine. So it just, faces popping up here and there. William H. Macy, he was a submarine captain. They're all over the place. But it was a good piece of writing, and I can tell in the end that it was, because this was the kind of thing that makes me want to get back to the keyboard and write faster. Two current projects I'm working on are the 5-Minute Silmarillion, which is a Substack project that will then be a YouTube project. Once I get it all written, I'll record them here for videos, and then the other one is draft one of my Intrepids series, which I've got the whole first book like outlined, but then I keep sitting down to write the first scene, and I'm like, something's not working here. I just need to allow myself to write a bad first draft so that I can fix the entire first draft. No matter how many times I do this, I convince myself that the next one will be the one that I get it all mostly right on the first try, and that's never the case. Like, just write the bad first draft. Somehow, after over 30 years of writing, I'm still hammering that into my head that you just like Ernest Hemingway said, one of the greatest writers of the 20th century, the first draft of anything is excrement. And I suppose that goes for you no matter who you are. It's got to be really, really hard to put something together right the first time. Maybe with nonfiction, if I was talking about a subject that I was very, very well versed on. I think you guys know the one. But anyway, I think I'm going to do a little bit more accountability here on the channel with my writing projects, just because I look at the week. Every time I do my planning for the week, I look at the last week and the next week, and I don't think I'm spending as much time writing as I should be. I let certain things get in the way, or I'll get in front of the computer at the end of a bad day, like today, and I'll just say, okay, I want to spend 30 minutes and decompress. I'll play an old strategy game and just blow some stuff up while I listen to some YouTube videos. That's great, but I really need to be productive during that time and use that for blowing off steam. Not flogging it out of my brain, but if I just sit down and write, then that always makes me feel better, having written something. I wish real life was more like a submarine crew in a comedy. But instead of a lovable bunch of misfits, I get cross-eyed potheads and apathetic warehouse loaders who put my truck together backwards every Tuesday. Reality is often disappointing. But anyway, an endorsement of Down Periscope. If you got Amazon Prime, go watch it. I think there's one F-bomb near the beginning and a couple of torpedo jokes. Other than that, very funny movie, and it's a good piece of writing. It's the kind that used to be common back then. I feel like most comedies that popped up, or just standalone movies that popped up, generally had good writing, and now it feels like that's less often the case. Although part of my frustration might be the fact that it just costs so much to go to the movies these days. But anyway, that's what I've got for you. Thank you for watching that. To help the channel, check out my books on Amazon. Buy one, read it, tell me what you think. For October, I recommend Sleepless Hollow, a fantastic sci-fi romp with guns, ghosts, and gonzo action sequences. You can also subscribe to my Substack, where I do more detailed book reviews and longer-running projects, some of which is paywalled. Drive safe. See you out there.